In a war-torn Vietnam, amidst the thick jungle and the relentless gunfire, there was a helicopter pilot who became a beacon of hope in the darkest hours. His name was Hugh Thompson Jr., but soon everyone would start calling him something completely different, something much more heroic. The name was Jimmy. Jimmy's story started like many others during that turbulent time. He enlisted in the military and trained as a helicopter pilot. It wasn't long before he found himself flying dangerous missions over the Vietnamese jungle, rescuing downed pilots and evacuating wounded soldiers. Every mission was fraught with danger. Every landing exposed them to enemy fire. But Jimmy was a skilled pilot and a cool head in those hot situations. His colleagues admired him, his superiors respected him, and the soldiers he saved looked up to him as a savior from the skies. But Jimmy was about to face a situation that would test his limits and change him forever. It was a day like any other in the war. Jimmy and his team were on a rescue mission deep in enemy territory when their helicopter was hit by enemy fire. One of the crew members was injured. They needed to get out of there as soon as possible. As Jimmy prepared for takeoff, he saw something that made him hesitate. There were wounded soldiers on the ground, pinned down by enemy fire, unable to move. According to orders, they were supposed to leave. Any attempt to rescue them would be seen as disobedience. Yet looking at these men, Jimmy couldn't just take off. He knew that, if he did, those men would be sitting ducks for the enemy. And so against orders, Jimmy landed the helicopter. Amidst the hail of bullets, he rushed to the wounded soldiers. With the help of his crew, they carried the soldiers to the helicopter and took off just in the nick of time. Back at the base, they learned that one of the soldiers they had rescued had died despite their best efforts. The rest were severely injured, but most importantly, none of them were killed. Relief washed over Jimmy. He had made the right decision, but this was only the beginning. Over the next few days, Jimmy's helicopter became a lifeline for the trapped soldiers. He flew back into the dangerous zone again and again, each time risking his life to save more soldiers. Each successful rescue mission brought him closer to the soldiers. He wasn't just a rescuer from the sky anymore. He was Jimmy, the man who wouldn't leave anyone behind. The soldiers on the ground started calling him that, and as word spread, the name resonated with everyone. Jimmy, the pilot who refused to leave anyone behind. Meanwhile, the higher-ups were growing increasingly frustrated. They understood the gravity of the situation, but they also knew that every rescue mission put Jimmy and his crew in danger. They ordered him to halt the rescue attempts. The lives of the trapped soldiers seemed almost hopeless, but Jimmy couldn't bear the thought of leaving them to their fate. He continued to fly into the danger zone, ignoring the orders. He knew he was pushing his luck, but he was determined to save as many soldiers as possible. One day, Jimmy and his team flew into the dangerous zone once again. But this time things went terribly wrong. Their helicopter was hit and crashed. Jimmy and his two crew members were captured and taken prisoner. They were beaten and tortured, but Jimmy refused to give up information. He knew that, if he didn't, his fellow soldiers might be put in even greater danger. Days turned into weeks, and the hope of rescue began to fade. But Jimmy never lost hope. He knew that someone, somewhere was looking for him. As it turned out, his men were indeed looking for him. A rescue mission was planned, but it was top secret. No one except the crew and a handful of officers knew about it. Jimmy had no way of knowing that his friends were out there looking for him. He spent his days dreaming of freedom and his nights trying to keep his spirits high. Then one night, everything changed. A group of soldiers broke into Jimmy's prison camp in the middle of the night. There was a fierce firefight between the enemy and the rescuers. In the end, the rescuers prevailed. Jimmy and some other prisoners were freed. The joy was short-lived, however, as Jimmy soon learned that one of his rescuers had been killed. Despite the loss, Jimmy was grateful to be alive. He had survived the unthinkable. But as the adrenaline rush subsided, Jimmy began to feel the weight of what had happened. He had been through hell and back. His ordeal had tested him in ways he had never imagined. He had faced death and stared into the abyss, but he had emerged stronger on the other side. Looking back at his journey, Jimmy realized that his ordeal had been more than just a test of endurance. It had been a test of his spirit, his will to survive, his compassion, and his sense of duty. He had been broken, but in the process of breaking, he had found a strength within himself that he never knew existed. And now, as he stood among his comrades, he knew that he would never be the same again. After his return, Jimmy received numerous medals and honors for his bravery. He was hailed as a hero, and rightfully so. But for Jimmy, the recognition didn't matter as much as the respect and admiration of his fellow soldiers. To them, he was more than a decorated hero. He was Jimmy, the man who had shown them that even in the darkest of times, hope could prevail. Years later, Jimmy retired from the military, but he never forgot his time in Vietnam. He often spoke to schools and community groups about his experiences, hoping to inspire young people to be brave and compassionate in the face of adversity. He also worked tirelessly to improve the lives of veterans, particularly those who had been wounded or injured in combat. As the years passed, Jimmy's story continued to resonate with people around the world. His bravery and compassion had become a symbol of the indomitable human spirit, a testament to the courage that resides in all of us. And so the legend of Jimmy, the pilot who wouldn't leave anyone behind, continued to be told, reminding people of the extraordinary things that ordinary people can achieve. If you ever hear his name, remember that behind the title of the most decorated living U.S. Army helicopter pilot lies the story of an extraordinary man, a man who in the midst of war chose compassion over orders, courage over fear, and humanity over all else. Now we want to ask you, what do you think of Jimmy's actions? Do you think he did the right thing by going against the orders? Let us know in the comments below. We also invite you to share your thoughts on this extraordinary man's story and what it means to you. Your feedback is very important to us and helps us create more engaging content for you. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you liked it, please give us a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories and documentaries.